Hello, everyone. Trying something a little different with the camera today. I hope you can still see everything all right. We're gonna make the final petal today and maybe start on the stem if we have time. I don't think I've ever made a project with this many pieces before, so it's really interesting. Let's try it and see. Gotta get my stitch marker real quick. Okay. I think you should be able to see this a lot better now. Recently, I was talking to my friend about dungeonmeshi, and we talked a little bit about how a lot of people like the main characters because they can connect to them. I was telling him how well he was saying he felt bad for him, and I was saying like it's it must be really hard for how do you spell for Chilchuck because he very clearly cares about other people, but he has a very hard time actually expressing it. Like he has a very hard time being vulnerable, which having a name like Chuck can't help with, in the human world. For some reason, people don't like the name Chuck very much and they laugh at it. And I'm kind of curious if there are other people in relationships, especially men that have had a similar experience. Like maybe they feel like they're not supposed to be vulnerable. And my friend said he thinks there are probably people who can relate to that. And because since that's the case for a lot of the characters, people like them so much because they can relate to them. You might have heard about how a lot of people on the autism spectrum have really connected with Dungeon Meshi in different ways. And that's definitely a thing that exists. But I'm kind of curious if other people have connected to Mithrun's whole thing with I don't know if it has a name, but where he like doesn't experience desires for things except for like the one thing he cares the most about. It's nowhere near as bad as what he's going through, like, he's had his desires magically removed, but I've had things like one of the medications I'm on makes it so I don't have an appetite, and a lot of people with ADHD are on similar meds. Or a lot of times it'll be like, "I know I have to go to bed right now, but I don't wanna do it because I want to do this thing I'm really interested in." For me, it's not like killing monsters, it would probably be crocheting like this or writing or something, but it's It's really interesting to me because it's sort of like what I go through, or in the morning, I'll be like, "I don't wanna take a shower. I don't wanna get ready for the day because I'd rather do this thing I'm really interested in already." Like, "Man, I just wanna start crocheting right away," or, "I just wanna start outlining another story right away," things like that. I don't remember all the details, but I remember Laios and Fallen's father having he's been described as acting a little similarly to them. Like he has his one interest and well, it's probably not his only interest ever. He has his main interest and that's what he focuses on and he doesn't spend a lot of time like just normally socializing with other people. And that's interesting to me because that's how a hyperfixation can look sometimes. Like that's how it used to be for me when I was a lot younger and I didn't understand how all this worked. So it would be like, go out, go meet new friends. No, I want to scroll Tumblr or something. I was young and foolish. I don't approve of it anymore. Mm. And I don't know enough about genetics to know exactly how it works, but I know autism can have genetic components. So I wonder if that could also be at play here because, he's the father of Fallen and Laios. Maybe it runs in the family. Just to be clear, I don't think any of this was intentional at all. It's just interesting to me because sometimes someone will have a hyperfixation that is not like a quote unquote useful thing. Like for me, for a long time, it was video games. For Laios, it's monsters, especially eating monsters. And sometimes that gets like it it gets like stigmatized, like just having a strong interest. In Laios's case, obviously monsters can be dangerous, but in real life, that doesn't just apply to something that could be dangerous, even if you're doing it safely. It'll be like, man, like you like video games? Why do you like video games so much? That's so weird. And it's like, I'm just talking about something I like. I have a strong interest in it. Or as we saw with how the Pokemon fandom treated Nemona, who behaves in a very similar way, she's another character that lots and lots of neurodivergent people can relate to. She really enjoys Pokemon battling, so that's something she talks about a lot. It's something she wants to do a lot. It's something she talks to other people about a lot. And they're like, man, she's so obsessive. That's so creepy. Well, my dude, no, it's not. No, it's not. Even if it's not a hyperfixation, sometimes people just have strong interests in things. That's why a lot of times we'll need reminders like, "Hey, did you ask Julian what Juliana what she's been doing today?" Or like what is Arvin like to study, which in this case is obviously cooking. And it's we're not saying to ourselves like, "Yeah, let's just yap about only the thing we like and ignore everybody else." It's just our brains are programmed to not be thinking about that stuff. Our brains are programmed to mainly focus on the thing that we're interested in. On the contrary, a lot of autistic people, and this applies to a lot of neurodivergent people as well, we'll really want to have friendships, we'll be lonely, but we have a hard time making them because people call us creepy and weird and stuff. For Laios, that would be like, "Man, monsters are so cool," and everybody's like, "Ew, that guy's so weird." Or for Nimona would be like, "I love Pokemon battling, it's so cool," and everyone's like, "Man, she's a stalker. What's wrong with all of you?" Why this is interesting to me is like obviously this is fictional, so we can like we should have discussions about it, but it's not as important to like real life. But you also see these same patterns that people have towards characters in real life. And I'm telling you this from personal experience. So I'd rather like I want to if I have an opportunity to tell someone about it, how this works and why they shouldn't do it to people in real life, then that's what I'm going to do. A lot of us are in a position where we want to have more friends. Our brains just aren't programmed to understand how to make friends all that easily. So it's it's difficult. Yeah, I think you can see this okay. We're on row 5, so we're 24 stitches around right now. I feel like we've been making petals forever. They don't individually take that long. There's just relatively a lot of them. Another thing I've been thinking about is there's a story idea I have that I want to be about sailing and unknown or unknowable stuff. And previously I said I might make it like cosmichorror, but I'm not sure if I want to portray unknown and unknowable stuff as scary. Like it certainly can be, but I don't think it has to be. The feeling I want to leave the reader with is more like, well, that's there. That's okay. That just is. So I don't know if there's a word for that exactly, like cosmic ambivalence. I don't know. I started thinking about another angle to it recently as well. With a lot of alien stories, they'll like hypnotize people or make them see illusions. Obviously, freaky, difficult to deal with. And that's not necessarily what I want to do. But I was thinking about how sometimes people just have different experiences from others. Like we have, like different people have different amounts of spice receptors on their tongue. So that's why some people have a lower or higher spice tolerance with foods. Or because like our brains are structured differently with things like sensory processing disorder, like I can hear sounds that my younger brothers cannot because my ears are more sensitive, and that's just how it is. Or I can spot differences in colors better, like, if we're looking at, say, different colors of yarn, and there's very clearly different shades of cream and, like, white and stuff, I'll go, "Oh, those look totally different," and my brother will be like, "They look the same." And that just is. Or some people, like, are more sensitive than others. I have stronger emotions than most people, and my emotions change more quickly because I have ADHD. That's just a fact. My brain is structured differently. And something that makes me think about is I feel like that should be taken more seriously. Like, if, and yes, I will explain how this connects to the story. I'm just trying to give you some context. If I'm a lot more sensitive than my first brother, for example, I used to get told like, "Oh, you're making that up. Oh, you're like, don't overreact. Don't be dramatic." And I was like, so if I was being dramatic, that would be where I'm pretending to be like sad or upset. But I wasn't. I just would be feeling sad or upset over a plan changing or like losing a toy or something. So it's a little odd to see that someone just reacts differently to things and assume that they're making it up and not just, oh, this person is more emotional than me. People have different experiences. Where this ties to astronomy, which I want to write about in this sailing story, is sometimes you have to go, okay, my experience isn't complete here. Like humans can see visible light, but we can't see most of what's in space actually. We can't see like radio waves with our eyes. Those we have to detect using instruments. We can't see in ultraviolet. So we have to use a bunch of equipment to help us see what's out there. That doesn't mean it isn't there. For humans, maybe we have different brain equipment. Maybe our bodies are structured differently. A lot of people with ADHD get allergies or eczema more easily because it's not just like their emotions that are more sensitive, it's their whole body. So, although I don't necessarily want to do it with aliens, what I might explore with this cosmic ambivalence story is people have different experiences, and sometimes you just have to trust that those are also real experiences. I was thinking about how people go on like these long journeys to prove a particle is real, like the neutrino, or to like discover new animal and stuff. And obviously, that gets someone lots of praise, lots of accolades. People will probably start trusting them a lot. And I thought, okay, so, what if we had a main character whose brain works very differently from a lot of other people's? Like maybe she gets upset more easily. Maybe she can hear things better than most people. And that's just to be clear, I'm not like bragging about that. That's not necessarily always fun. Sometimes I want to turn my ears off. Maybe smells are like overwhelming. That's an experience lots and lots of neurodivergent people have. So, when when the people around you don't understand what all that is, they can not take it seriously sometimes. And they think like you're being dramatic, you're making it up, things like that. So maybe we could have a main character who's had experiences like that and why she's journeying off into the sea and exploring the sea and all the strange creatures within it is because she's trying to make a discovery. And then once she makes a discovery, everyone will like her. She'll probably earn an award. And then people will be like, we can definitely trust this person. See, she proved this thing is real. Or she found a way to fix this problem, you know? And what I could use that to explore is it's not that simple. Like those people don't know you. If you told them like, hey, that sound is really loud to me, or that texture is unbearable, they still might not believe her, even though they should. So instead, what we could what we could learn throughout the story is like, okay, people are different from me. Maybe they don't have a hard time with the sound of cats yowling or babies crying or something, but I do. So I can take that seriously. Obviously, accommodations are a thing. Those should be respected. I'm just not sure if that's what I want the story to be about yet. For example, way back when I was first suggesting this story idea, I was talking it's in one of my Espeon streams. I was talking about beaches and how they move around, they're mobile, You have to work with them if you're living on them. In this civilization that's sailing and exploring the ocean and stuff, people live on the beach, so they have to worry about that. But there are also these strange creatures that live on the beach and in the ocean. The bioluminescence, slime, siphonophores, a bunch of weird stuff. So maybe there have been creatures that are like eating the fish that people eat. Or there have been like, I don't know what they're all called, but the tortoises that like live on beaches and they dig burrows. Maybe they've been burrowing in the same places people live. So, what our main character would be doing is trying to find a way to solve the problem or problems that her civilization is having as they're like working with the beach and the animals. Another thing I was considering is I like in Pokemon Sun and Moon where the creatures, which are they're obviously Pokemon, are super dangerous and scary. The Pokédex got metal for no apparent reason. Mega Evolutions got metal for no apparent reason. But the people there are so kind and they take care of each other. And I think that's how we can survive in really dangerous situations. So something I might do is have the main character as she's traveling around. She has to meet a bunch of new people. I want to name her Merla, by the way. I don't think I've said that. She's traveling around, she's meeting new people, and a bunch of them are actually very kind. Like maybe there are people out there who do take her seriously and they go like, "Okay, maybe your ears are just more sensitive." Or like, "Oh, I know what that is. Like my son is like that," or "I have a similar thing." And I think it could be it could be really powerful to show, like, there are people out there that will listen to you, and those are the people that you should go to, the people that will listen to you and take you seriously. Something else I was thinking about with this story idea is the buddy system. I would not wanna send someone out to go and explore this stuff all on their own. I think it's smart to, like, bring someone with you. And I don't necessarily want it to be just like in real life. In real life, you would probably need a whole team of researchers to go learn this stuff. But I think Merla is going to bring at least one person with her who's just kind of like, okay, that's how your brain works. That's just how it is. And I don't necessarily want to portray that as like some amazing thing because that's what everybody should be doing. That's not what I want the focus of their relationship to be on. But I know I don't want this person to just pile on to the gaslighting. All right, we're about two-thirds of the way done. I was thinking about naming this story Astronautical because it has to do with space, inspired by space, but also the ocean. And I think that could be really cool. I originally suggested this as a video game idea, but I don't have the resources for that right now. So I'll probably just write a story about it. I don't really want the focus of the story to be on action, but I wonder if it'd be smart to just have some like sharp things that the researchers take with them if they want to learn about dangerous ocean animals, just in case, just in case something with large teeth tries to bite you, or like a whale tries to slap you with its fin or something. I imagine a lot of this happening at night too, just because that's when you can see stars really well. That's when you have to do a lot of astronomy. But it could, I don't know, I might have to do a bunch of stuff in the daytime as well. Then maybe you could talk about the very brightly colored animals in the sea, most of which are poisonous, or they're trying to look poisonous. Something a little while ago, I was also discussing a story idea I have on here that's more about gothic horror and mascot horror. And that's still something I need to do a lot of research on. But what I was thinking about for making it scary is okay, a lot of stuff that these settings traditionally use doesn't really scare me, but what does get to me? Because that'll probably also get to someone else. And I don't want it to just be scary, obviously. But if there's a time when I want to scare the reader, like I don't love surprises. I don't love uncertainty. So it could be smart to just keep things feeling unsteady. Maybe like a floorboard gives way, the main character falls through it unexpectedly. Or maybe they're keeping like weird creaking sounds, but they don't follow a pattern. I also don't love small spaces. So maybe there could be like a closet or something and they get stuck in there for a while. Why this comes to mind for me is it's actually something my mom suggested to me once. At the time, I wasn't explaining something with the purpose of making something scary, but I was telling her how a lot of games, even though I don't really like, I don't like the being scared part of horror, but I like what a lot of horror media will do with the scary stuff. So I was telling her this, and she said, "Well, why don't you stream about it? Because there's probably people out there that feel the same way." And I think that's really interesting. And I think that's actually important advice because if I'm having this experience, I'm probably not the only person who does. So even if it feels like you're the only person who has like a specific fear or whatever, it that might not stop it from being something that you should like write a story about because there's tons of people in the world. There's probably someone else who has the same fear. This looks so squished right now. It'll look more normal once it's done. Another thing I was thinking about with horror is I don't really like getting hurt. And obviously most people do, but what I was thinking about is where you get like a bruise and then your body looks weird and purple and green. And I know nothing's wrong. It just like it looks out of the ordinary, so it kind of like freaks me out. And I don't really just want to do like blood and stuff for the sake of it. That doesn't really interest me. But what I might do with harm to someone's body in this horror idea is like it shows something's wrong, like your skin is broken, your skin's supposed to protect you. You're bleeding, your blood is supposed to be inside of you because that keeps you healthy. So it's more of a sign of something being like not in order, and the things need to be in order for a good reason than it is just like just the blood by itself. Like that's what makes it really meaningful to me. If you weren't here the last couple times I talked about this idea, it's a little bit like the sailing idea where you have to work with the people around you. But in this case, I was thinking about there being like one of those really old haunted houses that's just dirty and everything is falling apart. No one lives there anymore. And it's so gross. But how you would unhaunt it is by putting it back together, cleaning it up, making it a nice place to live and not just sadness, dust. Make it more of a habitat for humans than ghosts. And to do that, you would need the help of like cleaners, painters, like upholsterers. I don't know what it's called, but people who do like bedding, like blankets and stuff. And what that makes me think about is asking for help. Obviously, you'd have to do a lot of that. So I might have this main character be a man because I feel like, at least where I live, that's something they're kind of discouraged from doing is asking for help. And that's something I want to learn more about. But it's obviously not something I have experience with. So I would need to talk to some people. Okay, we're almost done this, just tying it off. It's all done. Pretty, huh? So we could sew these on, but hmm, right now I want to start making the stem. Okay, so for that, we're going to use green. Okay, this should be pretty simple. We're just gonna six crochet in a magic ring, and then we're gonna do 15 rows of single crocheting around. Again, this isn't really a tutorial, it's just to like hang out, but so you know where we are in the pattern. In this gothic horror setting, the hauntings aren't happening with like actual ghosts. They're happening with negative emotions. I wanted to play with the idea of after someone like leaves a house or a possession, sometimes if they were like super evil or angry, what if that emotion like stuck around? Obviously, don't forget all that stuff happened, but just being being like mad forever isn't going to fix anything. Eventually, you have to go to those feelings and do something about them. Maybe I should have gotten a pencil so I can count my rows. I used to have two row counters, but they both broke. Rip bozo. Or I could just clip some yarn. Okay, row one. There we go. I know bats usually live in caves or tiny bat houses that people build for them, but I wonder if it's true that they move into abandoned houses. That could be funny. Additionally, if you weren't there the last couple times I talked about this story idea, I want the negative emotions to have haunted toys. Only at this point, they're acting really strange because all they know is like to be greedy or angry or harmful. So they're not really acting like normal toys should. They'll be like stealing food or trying to bite people or something. And something I've been considering is in this abandoned house is not all by itself. There's a town nearby. In this area, people have probably noticed this stuff happening by now, but do they know they're toys or do they think they're just like monsters? Because at least from far away, imagine if you see like a tiny little girl running around. And if you got up close, you might go like, "Oh, this is made of plastic. This is a doll." From far away, would you see that and be like, "It's a fairy." The power system I'm talking about here isn't unique to the story. So it's an idea that I think is interesting, and I don't want to be repetitive. So I think I'm going to put it in the same story world as another idea I have. And basically, how that works is the objects people carry around will absorb the emotions that they have. So if someone like felt really sad while they were carrying around a bracelet or something, it would absorb that emotion. And eventually, look, it looks like a stem already. Eventually, those objects can come to life, like if they were haunted, or like the stories in Japan about an object existing for a long, long time and then gaining a soul. And the main story idea I have, I don't have a name for, so sorry about that. But they're all these like haunted objects would be more of similar to enemies in a video game, you just like smack them. But with this horror idea, I think they've become more sapient. And I don't want every single one of these creatures to be like alive and thinking. Some of them are just like objects. But what I might do is have it so the longer you bottle up an emotion or the more intense it is, the more intelligent the object that it bonds to will become. For example, if someone was like really angry for a long time, but they didn't express it, then that would have time to like fester, for the lack of a better word, and evolve. So imagine if you were like really angry about something, but you had to like keep it to yourself for a long, long time. And during that long, long time, you're just wearing like a necklace. If if you like just started talking about your feelings as soon as you had them, then it either wouldn't form, it wouldn't become like a haunted object, or it would just like float around a little bit, hop around a little bit. But if you're just there like seething for days and weeks and months, then it would like pop up and start talking or thinking or making plans. Obviously, that's not how feelings work in real life, but I think it's an interesting way to explore them. Like if you don't deal with your feelings, eventually they'll like come to life and make you deal with them. If the emotions that form the toys in the Gothic story are especially intense or well aged, I guess, that could be what makes so many of them more intelligent. What? Oh, that was just a plug, don't worry. I'm gonna have to get an actual pencil to stuff this later. This also doesn't say that we'll need to like close it up when we're finished speaking the stem, so I think we're just gonna sew the bottom of the flower on top here, and that'll close it. Something else I've been trying to draw recently is a cat. And for some reason, everyone keeps telling me it looks like a mouse. I didn't even give it like big round ears or a long nose. It's very strange. I feel like cats and mice are opposites, so I don't know what's happening. It's not related to either of these stories. It's just something I think is funny. It's going to get very loud soon, so we're probably going to have to finish up in a minute. I'm also curious if cats move into abandoned homes often. There's an abandoned old warehouse close to where I live that a bunch of cats have moved into. So if you had just a big old mansion or something, would they do the same thing? Maybe they like it just because it's shelter. There's lots of small spaces, so you can have a den. Cats are den animals. This stem isn't going to be very long, but I think that's because the flower isn't supposed to be very tall. It's easy to forget just how small 4 inches is, but this flower really wouldn't need to be very big for a Flabebe to sit on it. Okay, that's the last row of the stem. So we just gotta fasten it off. I have learned about the clean fasten off, where you make it look like another stitch. But I feel like by the time I pull it tight, it looks too small to be another stitch. I don't know, maybe I'm just heavy-handed. Shout out to me for having allergies, my nose constantly running. If I had to go into a big, dusty, abandoned manor, I would I would look like a One Piece character with snot all over my face. There we go. Okay, that should be it for today. You like it? Very soon, we'll be making the stamens, which are those little hairy things in the middle of the flower that have pollen on them. So I will see you in the next one.